They were more sophisticated. Uncle Milroy, who was Daddy, my mother's oldest brother, ran a dry cleaning company that there was a group of them that, as far as stores, and he was about in the middle, and people would bring their dry cleaning in. Well, I used to clean out the pockets, and there'd be napkins and blow nosers, but change, lots of change in their pockets. I used to get to keep the change because I'd clean them out, and I'd put it all here, and then they'd say, well, you can have that. So I would take those pennies and go down. Now this was here. If you cross the street, over here was a 5 and 10, and I would go over there and buy something.
5 and dime?
5 and dime, yeah. And
this was in Indiana.
Yeah. This Waynedale. Waynedale was outside of Fort Wayne, but just a little ways. And my bedroom, we lived on Church Street, and we lived across the street from the church. And the church was the Methodist church where Aunt May and Uncle Milroy went, and Mama did too. And I could look out my window in the back and see the lights of the main part of the town, and kind of knew where things were as far. I loved looking out the window. But in that house and at that house, and poor Daddy, we had this dog, and he was a black and white spotted bird dog. And he would get into things. Oh God, he'd make a mess. Well, out on the left-hand side of the house was grapes, growing rows and rows of grapes. But Mama didn't want them, and Daddy said, okay, well, I'll tear them down. And that yeah, and that dumb dog would come in with those grapes all over him and just make a mess. Mom was like, you know, she'd have a fit. And I would go out back. Mother said that I was the neatest kid because I would take a pan and make a pie and never get dirty and have it all pretty. And come in and say, put this in the oven, Mom. Because I would make them. That was my job.
The mud pies?
My pies.
See, you were baking back then. You started young.
You know what? Yeah, I must have. But those grapes weren't worth. Mom didn't like them, and so I guess I didn't like them either. But Daddy got rid of all those. Well, the kids would come by going to school, and they'd pull them and eat them on the way to school. Well, we were in the middle of the block. The church was across the street, and then just down from all that was this big high school. And the kids would cut across and get into it. Mom would say, they're making a mess.
So where was the military base?
That was in Arkansas.
I'm not clear as to whether your dad was in the military or worked for the military at that time.
He was out.
Okay.
He was out. He met Mom when he was in the military, but he got out. And then when he come home, he's got this little kid that talked like crazy. I wonder who she was. I could really tell him, I guess.
Yeah.
I was pretty good at it.
So you must have been 4, 5, something like that?
Well, not quite, but yeah, I was pushing. And then when we went to Arkansas, now, my grandmother and my grandfather ran, what was the name of the place? It was in the front of their house, and it was a store. And you could walk onto the porch and come in, and you could buy gas. And
what were their names?
Thompson? Oh, dear. Grandma.
Okay.
But that's how I got my name. Oh dear, I got all that written down somewhere. I got one of my names from her.
So is she Susie?
May. I'm sorry?
So she was Susie?
I think she was, but I don't think they called her that. But you could come in the store and stand there and look at the fireplace, which is where I fell into and did both my elbows. I was little and I lost my balance and I
fell into the fire. Oh.
Yeah. And then, okay, on this corner was the pop machine, and I could get chocolate soda and get a soda, and then you'd come out of there and you'd have a row of flour in bags. People would buy it in bags, and then there was all kinds of stuff on the wall. Well, that was this side of the store. This side of the store was actually food, and there was everything from bologna to cheese to, but back here was the oil, and then you went through the door, and this part of the store had chicken food.
Feed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sacks and that for Grandpa to sell out of the back. And then the gas station, the one tall
gas pump
was right there. And they would pull up. And it depended on what they had. Now the Joneses, which if you went on down and went into the swamp, the Joneses lived out there. Grandpa took me out there one time, and I went with him. I'm holding his hand, and I look at the house, and out comes Chicken out of the house. I mean, they were in the house. It was like, oh, okay. And she had all kinds of kids, and I don't know why he went down there. But he took me down there and brought me back, which was kind of interesting. And Mama became friends with Mrs. Jones. Well, Mrs. Jones came in, and they're talking, and she brought in something that she wanted to trade for food. I mean, that's how they did it. They would bartering. And they do a lot of bartering, that kind of thing. And so the folks would get anything and everything. We had chicken a lot. I wasn't fond of chicken when I was little. The only thing I liked was the liver.
You're backwards.
They give me the liver because I like the liver. Ew. Yeah. And so.
But they so the flour bags were made out of that cloth that you could make.
Oh yeah, dresses and stuff out of. Oh yeah, fun, pretty little
prints and
flowers all over. Yeah, it was like okay. And my mom was like, really? But yeah, Mom enjoyed it. Mom liked that. And right at the door, when you went into the house, there was a spot over here that Mom kept saying, we've got to clean this out. And I kept thinking, why? And there was a mouse that had umpteen babies.
Oh, no.
In that, yeah. And so when she started pulling all this out, and these little babies are running around, and I'm going, ee! And Mom says, no, we got to get them. We got to catch them. We got to kill them. Okay, whatever. But yeah, it was like, really? This is how they live? And it's kind of funny.
That was the store. That was the store where the candy man came.
The man came on Wednesdays, and I would stand on the right next to where they kept the candy, and I would sing songs, and he'd give me candy.
What songs did you sing?
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When I get all steamed up, I will shout, tip me over and pour me out.
Yay!
I want to hear about the house that we went to when we went on vacation, the big house that you went to as a small child and had already known you'd been there.
7321 Ideal Avenue, Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Whose house?
It was in Waynedale. It was Aunt May and Uncle Milroy's. Aunt May would make oyster stew every once in a while. And I wasn't real fond of it, but I would drink this. But I didn't like those things.
The oysters, yes.
The oysters. And in the kitchen, there was a big window. And it was over the, I want to call it a garage, but at that time it was just a drive-in, and it was a garage. And the garage, if you got out of your car, you could go to the basement where things were stored. Now, my Aunt May, her people were older and, of course, did things too, but they would can. And in the basement, there would be rows and rows of canned stuff. And now, here's something you guys don't see, and I know to this day I haven't seen one in years. They would boil eggs and then put them in
Pickle jars.
Pickle juice. Red.
Pickled egg.
There'd be rows of those. Well, I like those. And I would come up, and the stairs were crickety, and they would come into the kitchen, and I'd come walking up with, and Mom would say, you shouldn't get those because they'll break. You know, she was too concerned I would get hurt. But you go to the basement, and the one whole area was canned goods. And then there was kind of a room, and I can't remember what was in this room, but I was not to go in there. I was told no, to just stay out of there because it was packed, and it was pretty much. But then you could come on around, and she did her wash next to the door, and then she would go out back and hang it. Well, now the house on Ideal Avenue was right next to the choo-choo train, and the train went down, and you knew when it was coming. And you didn't hang your clothes because you had to make sure you didn't
get dirty.
Yeah, they would. Too funny.
But didn't you walk into that house and tell your mom that you had already been there when you'd never been there before?
Oh, now that was in Indiana. That was not there. But yes, there was a house. Oh, Grandpa Plew, what happened to his first wife? Something happened to her, and so he was pretty fancy. He would come and visit, and he would in his pockets he would have those, what are they called today? They were pink, and they were hard, and they were like a how do I describe them? They were candy. He'd have them in his pocket all the time. He always had his full, always had lots of candy. And he was a nice man. But and it's funny, I don't really remember talking to him, but I remember he brought candy. I knew that.
And is that the house you felt like you'd been in before?
No, that one was not in Fort Wayne. That was further south in Indiana.
Whose house was it?
And I'm thinking it was a gal that he dated. And we went to see her, and then he married her. And it was like, should I or shouldn't I kind of thing. And she was more of a grandma to me than, because the first one I didn't get to really know. And, but yeah, he was.
But I thought Aunt May's house, or one of the houses that was a family member, you told me a story about when you were a child. You went to go visit, and when you walked in, you told your mom you had been there before.
Yeah.
And you knew the layout of the house and stuff, but you had never actually been there.
Well, let me tell you about Aunt Lois's house. Okay, Aunt May's in town, and she's in Fort Wayne. And Fort Wayne is just out of Waynedale. Waynedale's here, Fort Wayne's here. Then you left there, and you came out this road, and you could go to the airport, or you could turn right, and there were a few farms, and just before, and Danny lived over here too. Danny, one of my boyfriends, Danny lived over here on that side, and that was going to the church. And Aunt Lois had Clarice, Arlene, Amy, Marvin and Roy Allen. Now I'm a little older than Roy Allen, but not much. And we were closer age-wise. And they had oh my God, they had a big, they were in the middle of, and cows and you name it. Matter of fact, I took Sandy. Well, when we went back, which time was that? We kept going back and forth between Arkansas and Indiana. And we're living in the house behind Aunt Lois's. And it's just a simple little house and farmhouse. And then out our windows, you could see the chickens were here, the pigs were down here, the barn was over here, the sheep are over here. I take Sandy, I say, come on, we're going to go look at the sheep. Do. We go twiddling. Now they had a, what do you call them? In the middle, you could play, and you would drive around, and you could bring the horses up to the barn. And I take Sandy by the hand, and we're going over to the sheep, and I tell her, yeah, you stay right here. And I don't know where I thought I was going, but I turned around, and she's face down, and
Well, the sheep are running all over.
They're running all over her, and I'm going, no. Of course, I'm running too. And I get her up, and she's black, of course. I have to take her home to Mama. I go, I did it. And she, yeah, well.
She survived.
She did. But it was like, oh my God. I turned around and she wasn't even there. You know, she was just down. So I said, I won't do that again. So then from the sheep, you could go out to the barn, and then there would be rows and rows of, now they didn't grow cotton. They did field type clothes and things for the animals to feed their horses and what have you. I get on the horse once in a while, ride with them. But I wasn't big enough to really handle a horse. But the boys were always good to me. And the boys, I had to watch them. They were always getting on to me because I was easy to get rattled because I didn't know anything about animals. And we'd have fun. One time the pigs got loose because I was stood there and let them out. So you could leave. They had a big place. And all this stuff is around the house. Well, then you could go down into the fields and then you go over here. And here's a big, kind of its own forest. There was trees and what have you. And the kids liked to go down there. Well, I wasn't supposed to go with them because it was too far. I mean, I would have got lost.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have too, because I was always wandering around. They would say, where's Susie? Oh, I don't know. The girls would keep track of me, but they were busy with the house. And,
yeah,
Aunt Lois's kitchen was narrow, but it had, oh my gosh, it was big. And you could see out the window to see if the guys were coming home from the fields and stuff. And now, this is something you guys will never see, I doubt. And when I was there, I remember doing it, but I don't. But they had like a huge machine that you ran the apples through and squished them and put them down through here and down into, and you made applesauce.
A press for cider and sauce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I remember
I've seen those old-fashioned presses in Vermont when I was there.
It's so fun. And I truly I wasn't old enough to really know what I was doing, but I was the one that got to turn the, yeah. Like, what are you doing, Susie? I'm making apples. Yeah, they bring them in. Too fun. But yeah, we lived in that house. That's where Patrick was born. And the one picture of us in the house, they had cut my hair down to, it was at the time they were very popular, but really, that's me?
Like a little pixie or something?
Yeah, kind of. was easy to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So yeah.
So can you tell us the order of when you went back and forth between Arkansas and Indiana, and when Mom was born and when Pat was born, and which where you were moving between all that?
Back and forth?
Yeah.
Well,
So
Daddy came through Fort Wayne and met Mom, and they liked each other, and so they got married. But then he goes on, he's in the Army, and he goes on and does his thing and serves and what have you. So Mom's in Fort Wayne by herself, and but she lived with Uncle Milroy, and so he would take care of her. And when Daddy came home, they got an apartment. I've got a couple pictures, I think, of me being outside and walking around and telling everybody off. I was just verbal.
A lippy young lady, huh?
Yes, I was. I just knew all about it. And Papa would say, "Where did she get that?" Because I would come up with things that nobody knew but me.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty much, I always was. But
so that was Indiana, and Grandma.
So Daddy said, "I'm not sure what we're going to do. Let's go to Arkansas." So Mom packs up and off we go to Arkansas. So now we're at Grandma and Grandpa's.
And you're about how old?
2, 3. So in Fort Wayne, when you drove in, the Pocahontas store was to the left, Pocahontas. That's Pocahontas, Arkansas. What was the name of that car? Plymouth? Did they have Plymouths back then?
Mm-hmm.
We lived upstairs, up these stairs in this apartment, and they sold cars and gas and worked on cars. And across the street, and I can't remember her name, but there was a girl. And so Mom would have me, now that's where I learned to stop, look, and listen, and be sure there's nothing coming across the street before I went across the street. So I would go over and play with her. We didn't live there very long, but I got my first bunny rabbit there.
Oh.
For Easter. And I liked my bunny rabbit. I had him for a long time. Little white bunny rabbit. We didn't live there too long. So then we moved back to Indiana. I mean, we were back and forth, back and forth. We were always going up and down the road. Now, in between, we would stop in Missouri and see Aunt, I can't remember her name right now. We'd stop and see them. But we got in Missouri and we're going to their house, and all of a sudden I look out and there's a bunch of black people, and I'm going, "What happened, Mom?" And I'd never seen black people before. It was like, duh. But yeah, they lived outside of St. Louis. So then we get on up to Indiana.
She answered the phone.
Oh. And we were back and forth several times.
Yeah.
Because we would go down and stay with Grandma. And then we'd come back up and stay with Aunt May. We were back and forth. And Daddy was always trying to find. Now, about the third time back, Daddy leaves. He's got a job. He's going to Washington, D.C. And he had on construction. And Mama says to my Aunt May and Uncle Milroy, "Shall we go?" "Yeah, let's go visit him." So he'd been gone a couple months. So we drove to Washington, D.C. That's where I got to see. I remember that. I remember seeing the
monuments and everything?
Yeah, it was really neat.
Was that before my mom was born?
No. Now that's another funny story, because at that time, when we went, Sandy had to stay with Aunt Lois.
Ah.
And she's sitting in a little chair, a rocking chair, and the chickens would come and talk to her. And she was there. And we didn't take her. And why we didn't, well, just an extra whatever, but she got to stay home. I remember that.
Okay.
Because she was out there at the ranch, which is barn, farm, whatever you want to call it in those days. I don't think you really called it anything. But yeah, she stayed there because we weren't gone long. But yeah, we left her with Aunt Lois.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that. So I was up, I was probably 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got to see
So who all went? So
just
May, Milroy, and you and Mom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we went to visit.
How long did he work up there?
Not very long. Maybe a year or so. He made good money at it though. And so I had to be 7 or 8 because we went. But 6, 7, 8, first grade, second grade. And I was in different schools. And I had gone to school in Arkansas. And they brought me back and put me in school in Fort Wayne. And they would say, she's just as polite as she can say. She always says, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. But she talks too much. That was on my report card. She talked too much. Talk. I was good at that.
So then you were in Indiana. No, Mom was born in Arkansas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she was born on one of those trips back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. Yeah, and then Daddy was told that because of his health that he should try Colorado, and if Colorado didn't work, we should go on to Arizona. And so we came to Colorado, and I'll never forget, Mom tells, Patrick woke up and looked out and says, look at all the golf courses. We were in the middle of Kansas, and everything was green, and he thought, boy, look at all the golf courses.
So wait, he was born in Indiana?
Yeah, we were living with Aunt May, or Aunt Lois, in that little house in the back. And Dad said, well, we'll try Colorado first.
So if you were living in Aunt Lois's house, and there were,
the house behind her.
The house behind,
Looked over the pigs.
Okay.
But, yeah, and it was kind of a nice little house. And we did pretty well in there.
How many bedrooms? Did all the kids sleep in one bedroom? Did you?
I don't remember that. Whether it was 2, one for the folks and one for us. But yeah, there was just the 3 of us at that time. And then when Mom finds out she's pregnant, she goes, oh, geez, here we go again. Which, at that point, and it's funny how we moved to Westminster, and we were in this 2-story house. And around the corner was a couple that I'd come around the corner, and I'm talking to them, and they're feeding me blue cheese. And I didn't like blue cheese, but that was a nice place. So we're there, and in the process of doing that, Daddy gets a job over here at Ragsdale. Well, that's opposite sides of the crazy driving back and forth and all that. And Papa says, well, so he gets his trailer. So we move into Wishing Well Trailer Park, which is and was at the time on Broadway. And we were down, where were we? Well, of course, Daddy was running back and forth. But Ragsdale was closer, and Daddy liked that. And it was pretty close to where they built the high school. But we were in the back, kind of down the hill in the trailer park. And that's where I met my good friend, I can see her, can't think of her name right now. She's still around. And she and I got to hanging around together. And if you came down the park, there were a couple kind of areas that kind of distinguished how much you bigger, better trailers, that kind of thing. But she was up front. She was at the actual loading place where they kept track. Her mother kind of kept track of who was there and who paid and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And I would meet her about halfway and then we'd walk around. But if we got too close to the fence, okay, give me a second. It was a dairy.
Hmm.
What dairy was there before? There was a big house, and then all the field was cows. But they didn't come too close to the fence. They stayed down, kind of down into. But yeah, they were out there. It's like Mom didn't dare hang out because the cows would come. So she had to kind of watch when she put things out. But every trailer park, every trailer had a little yard. And there was a sandbox. Daddy kind of put it together, and Sandy and Pat are playing out in the sandbox. And I walk up to the sandbox, and Sandy's got her shovel up. Yeah. Mom says, "What are you doing?" "I'm not hurting Susie. I'm going to hit her."
I'm going to kill her.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not hurting her. I'm going to kill her.
Yep. Duh. I don't know why. But yeah, she liked her sandbox. Duh.
So did you guys go back to Indiana again before moving into the house?
Actually, no. Daddy, we liked the trailer. We did okay. But then when Mike was coming, which, they're little. I'll never forget one day I hit, just by accident, and the applesauce went everywhere. And it was like all over the place. Sandy said, Mom said, "Susie, what'd you do?" "I didn't mean to do it."
But you guys, so before Ragsdale, you came to Colorado and then you left again.
Just for a short time. Because we came back and went to work at Ragsdale. And so then there was the trailer park, and then Papa says, "I'm buying you a house." It was like, "Really?" "Yeah, I'm going to buy a house." So Logan wasn't even, and matter of fact, Traeger's house wasn't even done, and they were working on it, and Daddy pulls up in the driveway and says, "This is it." I thought, "Oh golly." And he goes, "Yep, this is where we're going to live." And we lived there for how long? I mean, it was like, whoa. But yeah.
5251 South Logan Street.
Long time.
Yeah. Got there, it was only one story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, then he made up his mind he was going to build a basement. Well, now the guys are coming over, shoveling out the basement. Like, really? So then I got my bedroom in the basement.
Woohoo!
Underneath the folks' bedroom. And Daddy says, "Now you have to come out this window." Which I don't blame him, but it was like, really? And I wasn't too much of but I made it out. He said, "Okay, that's what it's about."
The fire escape got to practice, yeah.
Yeah, and we did that. But yeah, that's, oh well. So yeah, we lived there seemed like forever and ever. Pat was just little and Mike was just tiny. And I would take over Pat and she'd take over Mike. But yeah, it was like, holy moly.
So if you were taking care of Pat and Mom was taking care of Mike, what was Mama doing?
Running around. Who knows? Whatever. Yeah, bless her heart. We would fight over the dishes. We'd try to sing together, then we'd fight.
So did you sing while you're doing dishes?
Oh, yeah.
Like what kind of songs?
Oh, my gosh. I know. Tonight you belong to me, just little lonely. I just a little lonely.
Nice.
What was that song? I know you belong to me. Huh. Isn't that funny?
So,
I don't remember the name of it.
it's okay. That's cool.
But that was it.
Yeah, you sang the song. So did the three of you sing with Grandma?
No, Mama never came out in the kitchen. Sandy and I would wash, and she would rinse and dry, and she'd hand me something back, and I'd look at it and go, "Really?" Yeah. But we did that for a while.
Did you ever sing in the choir with Grandma?
I did not. I don't know why. And Mom, of course, was very involved with the whole thing, and I just didn't. I didn't sing in the choir. Sandy did, but I didn't. And that church, oh my gosh, it started out really small too, and it got big. And it was, a mile from home, but we'd go on Sundays. And one morning I got up and said, "I'm not going." And Daddy said, "Yes, you are." And I went, "Well, how come you don't go?" And he just didn't. He wasn't much of a goer, but he said we should go. Yeah, like, okay. Yeah, good old Logan. And Logan, of course, grew up. I mean, I used to babysit every house. There wasn't any house on our side of the street that didn't have kids. And but the Brits were probably the first, and then there were people here and here, and maybe one up above. But the Brits were fun to take care of. I enjoyed that. But yeah.
So, but I'm confused as to, you came out to Colorado and then didn't stay because of a job or something, and you had to go back. Did you go back to Arkansas or to Indiana?
I think Indiana. Because I think whatever we brought back, we had to bring back furniture and stuff. So we pulled a trailer, but even at that, it was like, really? We'll go back to Indiana.
And when did the boat shop happen? And
that was after I got married, and I think Sandy had gotten married too. And Daddy was hanging around with those guys, and there was Lionel and a couple of those guys, and they were from Kansas. And they said, "Well, come on over to Kansas, and we'll get you in a business." And so they actually went into business, and were selling boats and things like that.
what was the name of it? Something an S.
Oh, I've got a thing around
It's
here
LNS
somewhere.
or ANS, A&L.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Linus and Sandy, LNS.
I think it was
But Grandpa's
LNS.
name wasn't part of the.
No, he just worked for him
Okay.
and knew what he was doing. And of course, Daddy had a way. He had a way of saying, "Well, now this is the way it should be." That's the way it would be. But yeah, and they were there. They were in, let's see, Kansas. And the thing of it is, no, that was after Daddy passed, huh? Because it was Lionel. What? Leo. Leo's mother lived on the corner, and they lived in this little shack beside it, but they built a really nice house next to her. And, yeah, it was like, okay.
So I think you told me that Grandma and Daddy, sorry, your mom and Dad, moved to, so they went and did the boat shop and left you guys in the house, right? Or left Mom and Pat and Mike or somebody in the house.
Yeah.
But then they...
And I had moved and
came back. Yeah, so they came back because they were in Colorado when your dad died.
Yeah. Yeah, he needed something. Yeah. And I went to the hospital. We were all there. And he'd come out of surgery and he was laying there doing all right. And I said to Mom, I said, well, if I go home and go to bed at your house and then come back, is it all right? Yeah. So I did. And I came back and he hadn't made it. So, yeah. So it was kind of like, so then I just stayed with Mom after that for a little while. And then I came back down. But it was like, really? And so she was still in the house. And Leo knocked on the door and said, I would like to date you.
Really?
Yeah. And Mom was like...
Now, did he know Leo from Kansas? Is that
they worked together.
Oh,
they had worked together.
At Ragsdale.
And so, yeah, so he kind of took over. Sandy didn't like him. And I thought, well, you got to give a guy a chance. You know, I'd say, why are you so anti? He's not my daddy. I said, well, I know he's not your daddy, but you have to let Mom have a chance. And actually, she got along pretty well with him. And he was good to her, too. And it was like, so then he convinced Mom to sell that house and to go to Kansas. It was like, really? And he did. And so he went over there to Kansas. And his mom was different. And Mom didn't really like her, but it was all right. But well, you're not a Christian unless you've been saved and all this stuff. And I thought, really? And she kind of gave Mom a hard time. But they got along. And was it Dow? We drove over for a weekend. And we went to a sale. Oh my God, some big old ranch. And stuff all over. It's like, really? And I'm thinking, what are we doing here? Well, that little chair that's in that bedroom that has been painted is so perfect. $1 at that sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, there were 3 of them. And the guy buys all 3. And I think, I want that chair. So I went over to him and I said, are you going to actually use those chairs? He goes, what are you interested in? I said, that one. He said, you can have it for $1.
Wow.
So I grabbed it up and Dale goes, really? And I said, yes, I'm going to get this like I want it.
Mm-hmm.
So
you did. Yes.
So I had it. But yeah, we go over. One time we went over, they had just closed at Kansas, right at the, what's that? And they were just closing the highways because it was snowing like crazy. Mm-hmm. And Dal says, what do you think? And I said, whatever you think. And I said, I'm with you. He said, well, we're going. Oh, it was the most horrible. Oh, it was like, really? And people were off the road. We got there.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I don't believe we're doing this.
I met May. I don't know if it was more than once, but I know that I met her once. But I remember the only thing that I associate with May is her stuffing.
Yeah, she was quite a cook.
Her French sausage stuffing.
Yeah, she was quite a cook. And she had her way.
And she had 12 kids?
Mm-hmm.
Where was Leo in the 12? Do you know? Was he kind of older or younger? Or?
I don't remember.
That's okay. It's not important. But I was just curious.
It was his mother. And whatever she said went. And they had a parade for her, too.
What?
Downtown, that little town. And she was, yeah.
Colby? Is that right? Colby, Kansas?
Colby.
They had prayed for her while she was alive or when she passed?
She was alive. She turned 92 or something, and they decided she should be the parade thing, so okay. So yeah, it was kind of different. It was very different. It was a little town. Oh well, we didn't go over that often, but we went over.
But then, okay, so they moved to Colby. And then he passed away while they were in Colby. Is that right?
Where did he pass? Oh, I've got the thing here somewhere. Where did he pass? It was there because they had gone to church, come for breakfast, gone in and had breakfast. He said to Mom, I'm going out. And he got in the back seat. And so she's doing her thing and coming out. And he's in the back seat and he says, I think you better take me to the doctor. And she was like, okay. And he just wouldn't come out of it. So yeah, so it was pretty hard. And here's poor Mom over there. So then she says, and I remember we went over a couple times and we were over there. I was over there with the boys. I don't know where Sandy was.
I've seen a picture of all four of you over there in Kansas one time.
Yeah, because we had to help her kind of get settled and decide where she was going to go and what she was going to do. I'm not sure what, but...
When did she end up coming back to Colorado?
Yeah. Yeah, and then Sandy said, well, come on out with me. So she went out with Mom, your mom, and spent a week or so. And they went on a cruise.
Yeah.
And then she came back through, and she had so much stuff, and she knew she did. And Sandy took the piano. But because he had built her a nice house, but she didn't want to stay there. And she thought, well, she'd come back. So then she was between, you know, she was kind of like. Then she decided she'd come here because she'd be close to me. So then she was in this real nice apartment. She lived there for, oh wow. About to go over.
Where was that apartment?
It was actually in Pueblo. But as you, let's see, you come into Pueblo and you can go into Belmont there. But if you keep going, she was just right out here on the road. And so then you go in and go there.
Oh.
And she did okay there for a while. She was there for...
Was that Business 50 West, kind of? Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, she seemed to get along okay there. And back and forth. But yeah, it was kind of like, whoa. She didn't know where she wanted to stay, but she thought she'd stay there. I said, okay. So we tried to establish. And she knew all the ladies. And she drove. She kept her license because she had to take people places. So she would take her friends. They'd go shopping, and there were a couple of them that would take advantage of her, but what the hell. You know, she knew she had to do it. It was like, okay. So yeah, she did really well there.
And then she moved out of the apartment because she wasn't doing well physically?
Well, you know, she had so many boxes full of stuff. Oh my God. And she'd keep them. I don't blame her. They were her stuff, you know. But yeah, she decided she'd move. And they opened this apartment here it's on McCulloch. And she moved in there. And she had all of her stuff, and I had a lot of her stuff too. She was happy there. But then when she really got sick, it was hard. And she went from there to the hospital, and when they brought her back, they were going to put her on this feeder thing, and the people at the department said, we can't have that. And I thought, okay. So I started looking around, like, where can I put her? Well, from here into, if you go across to the highway and come up to the college, there's a thing here that on Jerry Murphy where you can turn Jerry Murphy and
kind of like by Big Lots a little bit.
Right there. And they put her in there. And I went in there and said, now, what can she do? Well, she can be in this room. Well, the room she was in first was at the back, and it had nice to look out and watch the birds and stuff. But the lady she was with was kind of...
she screamed a lot, right? Or cried or something.
Yeah. Mom said...
get me out of here.
Yeah. She said, this is not working. I said, okay. So I went back and talked to them, and they said, well, we'll get her moved. So they took her from that and took her to the other side over here and put her there. And there she wasn't by the window, but the lady that was by the window was kind of incapacitated anyway. And so they didn't talk. She wasn't much of a conversationalist. But the little gal looks up on and I had the picture of the four of us with Mom. And she said, I know her. So, yeah, when I walked in, Susie, you're okay. So I thought they took good care of her, but she was stuck on that. She didn't have any real, and no desire to do anything. And it was kind of like, Mom? And because Dal and I, when she was at the other place, we would take her once a week to dinner with all of us. And I'd fix her a plate, and she'd be happy with that, and she'd sit and try to eat everything. And I'd bring her over here and set her in that brown chair and then give her a box of cards and let her go through them. But
what kind of cards?
Pictures.
Oh, okay.
And she just loved to go through those. But, yeah, and I had boxes and boxes. I had all of her stuff here. And so I'd bring up a box, hand it to her and say, keep busy. So, yeah, she liked it. And Dal always, are we going to take you, Mom? Sure, we can take her. If you want to take her, let's take her. So we just take her. But she got to that point where she really didn't have an interest, didn't really want to get involved, get out and go. And then we made the mistake. Was that during that period? We decided to take the trip to Alaska. And we were gone a month. Well, it was hard on her. It was really hard on her for me to be gone. And I told Dana, go see her. And she didn't go till towards the end. And when she did, she wrote us and she said, she's not doing well. I thought, oh, shit. So we came back and tried to she kind of snapped out of it for a little bit. And then she just wasn't sure that and she would not give it up. She'd just be there. Okay. So I talked to her. Yeah, she had a hard time with that. But I guess our being gone wasn't good either, but still we needed to go. We went up. We caught in Washington, you can catch this tram that takes we had a real nice camper, and you put it in the basement, and then you go to a bedroom, and you're stuck, and you go up and from Washington, which we had driven from here across, and then we realized we could go by the one that blew up.
Mount St. Helens?
Yep. And we could go see that, so we went this way, and really neat. And so when we got on this road, it was a little different, and I said, honey, if we go here, and I kind of mapped the way, and we found a wonderful place in Washington that we could spend the night and then get up and go get a camper. Well, this was right by the lake, and it was just so neat, and we really enjoyed it. And then we went up and got on our boat. Well, then we go up to, I remember that place, and we get off. Well, now we've got to drive across to get to Anchorage.
Mm-hmm.
And we took a night. There was a day and a night, and we spent the night there. Oh, it was so pretty.
Were you staying in the camper?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had a nice camper. We really had a nice camper. And we get into Anchorage, and then we touch base with Pat, and he says, "Okay, what you need to do is this, this, and this, and we'll go to dinner," which we did. And he said, "In the morning, we're going to go get on this boat." Okay. So we went out. Oh, gorgeous. Went out, and he took us for a whole week. He took us all over. And we flew into a place where we could fish.
Mm-hmm.
And I caught a big one. And so when we left Anchorage, we drove up to Big Bear. Big Bear?
Big Bear's in California, I think.
Oh, well, anyway.
McKinley? Are you talking about a mountain, or are you talking about?
Kind of. From Anchorage, we went up. Now where are we going? And we got on a bus and drove and saw animals, and oh my God. But we were never that close. Oh, what's that hill? I can see it. And we could see it. Then we came back. And then we got back on, and we ours and went up the road and parked there. Then we went up to Fairplay. Does that sound right?
Mm-mm.
No?
Fairplay's here in Colorado. Hold on.
Oh, shit.
Hold on. What's the...
It's up there. Oh, dear.
I can't
remember when we went there. Oh, shoot.
Why can't I remember? That's in Alaska.
And it's a beautiful university, little town. And we went to the
Fairbanks.
Fairbanks. That's where we went. And we walk in the door, and to the left is it shows like where we've been. And I said, okay. We spent the whole day in there. It was just gorgeous. And it kind of explained how things happened there. And then we went over here where there were flowers and gorgeous things. And I said, Dal, this is the prettiest area. And we had a really nice time. Well, then we get back in our vehicle. And the town was just not a big town, but it was kind of a neat area. And we said, okay, now should we take this road or this road? Well, if you take this road, we were talking about coming down and going to the rodeo. But we'd seen rodeos, but yet that was the only really way out. But then we stopped for gas, and we talked to this guy, and he said, well, you're going to spend, money, which is okay. But we knew rodeos, and we said, well... That
was Calgary, is that right, in Canada?
Yeah. And it was like the rodeo was going on, and we said, should we or shouldn't we? And we decided, like I said, we'd already seen lots of rodeos. So we came on down. Well, when you leave there, you actually come across Montana. But you're real close to the mountains. But yet he had a friend that he'd been in the service with that lived out there, and he said, let's go out there. Well, he wasn't home. He'd already gone someplace else.
Oh.
And so we thought, well, then we'll just come on down. And we decided to turn and come to Yellowstone and this part. And so we went to, and all the way across Montana. I must have counted, you've never seen so many of those critters. Oh my goodness, we saw.
Which critters?
I'm trying to think of it. You give me a minute. Well, I can see them. I can't think of them. They're not elk. They're smaller.
Deer, antelope?
Antelope.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. All over the place. So we get into Yellowstone area. Wow, beautiful. We spent the day in Dodge City, and I gambled. I said, I'm winning. And we've been gone a month. Well, it was too long for Mom. But it was like, I'm sorry, we're on our way, but we're not coming yet. But yeah, she kind of had given up at that point. So I thought, oh. So I tried to talk her out of it. But
so I think we had just moved about that time. Didn't we get here just at that time?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, yeah. Well, in this house, my God. And I've noticed I'm coming apart up there. The sea up there in the very top, that worries me, but oh well. So yeah. So we got back and took care of Mom. But yeah, we had a wonderful trip. We really did.
You got to go fishing and...
Oh. From the moment we left, we were gone almost 40 days. We had fish every day. I mean, oh, God. Good. Oh.
Yeah, but what about the, there was a story about mosquitoes.
Okay, where were we? And we decided to stop because you had to walk out to their place you could get in and be in hot water and all that good stuff. But oh my gosh, they would just eat you alive. And it was like, I wasn't going to get in, but I put my feet in, but then it was like, oh my goodness, look at all those mosquitoes. Dal got in, but it was just too hot for me.
I thought there was one that had to do with when you guys were fishing or something, and you had to go potty.
Oh, that was up, okay, that was with Mike and Patrick. We were on the lake, and Dal had gone down below the boat, and Pat had stayed with me to kind of learn to get out there. And we had gotten lunch and brought it with us. And the lady had made these salmon sandwiches. Oh my God, were they good. But you know how you hang on for just so long and then you know you have to go. And I thought, well, you gotta go. So I said to Dal, I said, you gonna take me in there? Yeah, let's go. Well, we're at the edge of the river, but you come in and you get into all that. Oh my goodness. Everything was so thick and just lots and lots of everything. And when I finally took my pants down, oh my God. Bite. And on my feet too, oh, they just bit me all over the place. And I didn't care, but I did. I mean, you know, it was like, eek, eek, eek.
You're too sweet.
And I learned on the trip, I had bought some lavender lotion.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you put that on it, it kind of helps. But oh my God, did it hurt. It was like, oh well. But yeah.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
You gotta go, that's it. It was so nice. And Pat had picked that place. And that place, it turned out, Pat was right in the process with his job where he could design and show you, but he was now where he could put it in there too.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was all excited and actually made Pat a new job.
Oh, awesome.
So it was kind of nice for Pat. But oh, beautiful, so beautiful. Yeah, we had a good time. But yeah. So this house, been in here 20 years, almost more than 20 now, but Matter of fact, it could be almost 30 years. But when Sandy first came here,
Okay.
Lytton was just
6, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
That's yeah. And he stood right there at that window, and I took a picture. Because you say now I want to do this and I want to do that, but yeah, this house pretty much. We were happy with this house. He wasn't happy until we got the barn, and we'd been in here a couple years, and I knew that there was a garage, but it wasn't the same that he was used to. And it'd been about a year, and we went up to Cripple Creek, and he did really well. And coming home, we were laughing about how much money we got. He goes, well, now you know what I'm going to do with it. And I said, no, what? He said, I'm going to build a barn. I said, oh, really? And we got a hold of a guy that could come up and just do the whole thing, which was nice. And that made him happy. Once he was happy, he was fine with us. Didn't really like the garage. He was kind of like, wasn't big enough.
You need more space.
Yes, and then he got so damn much space. It was like, what are you going to do with all? Well, I'll make an area for horses, which we thought at the time that Brett would probably bring his over, but he didn't, thank goodness. But yeah, those two things in the back were more or less for all horses. And it was like, really?
But then it was a good place for the camper, huh?
Yeah.
And the motorcycle and all that kind of good stuff.
Yes. He had room to go sit out there by himself too. He didn't have to cry at me. Oh well.
Thank you for all the cool stories.
I think I told enough, didn't I?
Never
You
enough.
guys aren't gonna
Never
believe
enough.
what I found on